Welcome to the Grow Your Business and Grow Your Wealth podcast with Gary Heldt. Gary is an expert in helping business owners put together a plan that will provide a better future for their businesses, themselves, and their families. On the podcast, Gary interviews other professionals who share his vision, and together they share secrets and strategies any business owner can use to build a better financial foundation for your business and your life.
Hey, welcome back to my podcast. And this week, our guest is Mario Zumbo, and he is the founder and CEO of Preserve Private Wealth. Welcome, Mario.
Thanks, Gary. Appreciate you having me.
Yeah. So, Mario, you're you're doing private wealth. You didn't always start out there. Kind of give us your background, kind of where you got your education and where you grew from.
Yeah. So, my story, I had a very balanced childhood between entrepreneurship and, higher education. I had a very strong influence from my grandfather on my mom's side, who was just kind of old school, blue collar entrepreneur, owned a, body shop, invested in real estate, would sell anything for a buck. And so he was a really strong influence in my upbringing. But my father was a college professor who obviously valued, higher education, was a little bit more conservative in nature, get a job, get the paycheck. And so I think I'm very much a byproduct of both of those influences. I went to, University of Maryland, College Park, graduated during the height of the financial crisis with a finance degree. So great time to be coming out with a finance degree. But, I naturally kind of fell into an industry that was a little bit more protected from what was going on in the economy and the job market. And being in the DC metro area, I fell into government contracting. So I did corporate finance and consulting in the government contracting for about 5 years, after college. And I got to that point that a lot of mid to late 20-year-olds have, that quarter life crisis of what am I doing with my career? What am I doing with my life? And, really tried to be intentional about the next move, whether it was going back to business school, getting an MBA, pivoting industries, et cetera, et cetera. And so, make a long story short, after some introspection and conversations with people that knew me best, and literally writing down, what I'm good at and what do I enjoy, both technical and intangible, it actually became very, very clear. So, I always had a proclivity towards the numbers. I loved investing. I loved the markets. I loved everything personal finance, financial planning, entrepreneurship, anything about building wealth. And then, it wasn't until I realized that this business and, a lot of businesses similar to yours, the core of the business, right? The true core of the business is about building meaningful relationships, building trust with clients, and providing valuable advice, which was something that kind of naturally was good at. And so when that all clicked, it was like, oh my gosh, this profession is made for me. And so I went all in, completely pivoted. Basically, it's a lot easier said than done getting into the wealth management business. I talked to and networked with everybody that would talk to me, but eventually got into the business. I took, started over, took a 50% pay cut, but my career kind of took off from there. And so for the next decade, I worked in some of the leading financial institutions, started at Charles Schwab, was an advisor at Fidelity Investments. And then for the 6 years, I joined a team that eventually got acquired by Goldman Sachs. And so for the last 6 years with that team, 4 of those 6 years were inside Goldman Sachs. And then about 2 years ago, because I always had that entrepreneurial itch from my grandfather on my mother's side, eventually it was the right time to go out and hang my own shingle. And so for the last 2 years, I've been building Preserve Private Wealth.
Great. What what are some of the experiences that you had? Because you said your grandfather really, and again, I'm going to say you kind of had the devil and angel on each shoulder type thing with your dad and your grandfather, because again, lots of times, I'm going to say the old school businessmen and stuff kind of thought about things a different way, and were you know, I'm going to say risk takers, where
Mhm.
the college professor side is, hey, get that safe job, get your your retirement and your benefits and stuff like that. Um, how are those two pieces now really shaping what you do for the high net worth business owners and stuff like that you deal with?
Yeah, I mean, I love that that's part of my DNA and upbringing, because I think it 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 brings the best of both worlds to the forefront, right? I I did pretty well in school, and I can bury my head in a spreadsheet and get pretty technical, but I can also walk down the street and talk to anybody, and have that curiosity of anything entrepreneur, whether it's the barbershop owner, or the tech sale, the young tech entrepreneur. I feel like I can relate to anybody, but also provide advice at a high sophisticated level, or bring it down to wherever it's needed. I'll tell you, I think you talked about balancing the devil on both shoulders. I always say the hardest thing about going out and eventually hanging my own shingle, it was making the decision, right? Because I did have both tugging at me
Oh yeah.
always, right? And so you can always have an excuse, right? There's always, I'll wait until X happens. I'll wait, until I get past this year. I'll wait until baby comes. I'll wait until we get the house. I'll wait, right? And you're making more money and getting more entrenched, and it becomes harder and harder.
Right.
Uh, and so it's easy to talk yourself out of. But once I made that psychological shift, I'm going. I'm starting my own thing. I know I need to do this. Then it was, I was all in, and it frankly made it easier.
Yeah, I think that lots of times, in dealing with business owners and even people that aren't business owners, like you're talking about, hey, I can wait, I can wait. I mean, I think so many times when people are looking to invest money, putting money in their retirement plans or whatever it is, it's like it's always that, oh, if I only made whatever, $5 more, or if I had this or if I had that. And it really stops people from doing things. What How do you handle that, and how do you help them kind of get over that, to be able to get them to start pushing forward, to saving, to making sure that they're planning for their future?
Yeah. Um, a lot of sitting in my seat is, whatever you want to call it, coach, therapist,
Mm.
just kind of being an ear to listen, and helping shape behavior. And I think, fortunately, I have a lot of great clients, and a lot of times when a client comes to me, they already have a lot of good kind of behaviors and discipline. But I think it always boils back to what's most important to them, right? And what are their goals, and making sure that there's an understanding both on their side and on your side of what's most important to them. As long as you can relate any change in behavior or any action that needs to be taken back to reminding them this is for the good of X goal or Y goal, uh, that helps. Doesn't mean they always 100% are
Sure.
going to take 100% of the time going to take your advice, but it helps taking it from that perspective.
Yeah. So, at Preserve Private Wealth, you guys are doing things a little bit differently than you may have done when you were at Goldman Sachs or Fidelity with any of these. Can you kind of explain how you guys do things differently than where you were before?
Sure. You know, uh, I'd say, one, is it's a much more personalized and customized experience, right? So working at some of the big institutions, I had hundreds of clients, and always, try to give my best and be as present as possible with every single client interaction. But you get stretched a little thin. And so now being completely independent, we have the autonomy to be very intentional about who we work with and keep that client to advisor ratio, very low. I've always envisioned that relationship being very personal. So I want to get to know every client on a very deep personal level. And that's hard to do when you have too many clients.
Yeah.
On the investment side and stuff, there's a lot of it's the same. There's not much drop off from what we have the capabilities to do. The other thing from a service perspective, which is a bit unique, a lot of traditional firms operate under the asset under management model, right? You have to have a certain number of amount of assets to work with us, and the majority of my clients still do, right? They have a good amount of liquidity that we manage, but I love working with younger business owners, entrepreneurs that are really, really successful in their own right, but maybe haven't had enough time or haven't had the big pop or liquidity event from their business. And so they aren't getting access or, even able to really have a conversation with good advisors. And so now, again, being completely independent and having, capabilities to work however I want, I can work with those types of clients and get them the help and get them the financial planning and the advice that they need early on, rather than, I'm selling the business and let me call, all the advisors I can find on the yellow pages, right? There could be a drastic change in outcome the earlier you have the right team players and the right advisors behind you.
Now, how do you help cultivate those relationships and find them?
Yeah, so some of the traditional ways, I have some of those clients, I already have some of those clients that were referrals from existing clients or just part of my natural network, and they refer clients, right? Very traditional way. COIs, obviously centers of influence, so other accountants like yourself, estate lawyers, insurance professionals. Those are, I would say, my three main COIs, also M&A professionals. And then some good old, old school cold outreach and pounding the pavement and trying to find out where those types of clients, hang out in person and hang out online and trying to connect with them.
Right. The times, I'm going to say times are changing. The economy is changing. We got a lot of things that are going on right now. How do you see that, changing your focus and what you're doing, there at Preserve Private Wealth?
Yeah, I think honestly, right now it's actually been pleasantly quiet, even though it always seems crazy. In my world, the markets, the stock market has pretty much cooperated over the last couple of years. The economy is on solid footing. The Fed seems to be on a path to achieve the proverbial, soft landing or no landing. Obviously it's an election year, and so there's added tension and added media attention with respect to the election, and which will ultimately result in probably increased volatility the closer we get to the election. I'm surprised we haven't seen more yet, but I'm knock on wood. It's been pleasantly quiet over the last 18 months.
Right. Looking looking out, if or I should say reflecting back, if you were able to kind of go back and talk to your 18-year-old self,
Yeah.
what would you have told yourself?
I would have told myself to be patient and remember how much time you have, right? And so when I talked about making that pivot in my 20s, I put so much pressure on myself to like figure it out, which I'm glad I did. It worked out, and I feel very fortunate. But I didn't have the perspective of realizing, I'm gonna be working for another 40 years, right? Like,
Right.
if it takes me another 6 months or 6 years to figure it out, it's not that big of a deal in the grand scheme of things. And so that's what I would tell my younger self, is just don't put so much pressure on yourself. Take every moment as it comes, and you got plenty of time to figure it out.
Yeah, I think that's something that always as a business owner, as a successful person, we're always trying to push ourselves. What's the next thing? What's the next thing? What's the next thing? And I think the old saying, you got to slow down and smell the roses. I mean, it's
Right.
we got to make sure that we enjoy the journey that we're on, and not always worrying about, okay, what's that next thing that we need to do or accomplish.
Yeah.
I think that's, again, sometimes we don't slow down enough.
Yeah.
um where do you see where do you see Mario in the next 5 years?
Yeah.
Obviously, you shared with me earlier, you're having a kid here in a few months. So
Yep. Yeah.
besides that,
Yeah. Got the first kid on the way. Hopefully have another one or maybe two more. So obviously, growing the family on the family side, and continue obviously be really present with my kids, which is another reason I love entrepreneurship. Well, it's can be very daunting, and you put in a lot of hours. It also gives you the autonomy to live your life, on your terms.
mhm.
On the business side, I think it's continuing to do what we're doing. Just bringing on the right type of clients, helping as many people that have the right kind of persona as possible. And I think I have a really good team together. It's the beautiful thing about this business is you don't have to hire dozens and dozens of people to have a successful business. You can kind of keep the team small. So we got a nice small team that I think we could probably 4x from where we are right now without adding much more headcount or complexity or costs. And so that's what I'm planning to do. Just service my clients as good as possible.
So if you had, you're talking to somebody and you're trying to give them advice on picking a manager, a advisor, financial advisor, what are some of the things that you're telling them questions they should be asking?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it should be a personal relationship, right? And so I think first is making sure that you get along with the person personally, right? Do they pass the coffee test or the beer test? Would you want to go get a coffee or a beer with them? The second is getting an understanding of do they have an expertise of working with clients like yourself, right? Whatever that is, whether you're a lawyer or a business owner or somebody that's about to be retired, do they have a lot of experience, and does their client base look similar to you? And then third is making sure from a technical perspective that you're confident that they know what they're doing, right? There's a ton of really, really good people in this business, but advisor is used interchangeably for a lot of different hats and a lot of different roles. And so you just want to make sure that they are a technical expert in what you're trying to solve. Again, whether it's retirement planning, exit planning from the business, tax planning, estate planning, et cetera, and not just a really good salesperson.
Yeah. One of the things what I always tell people is, if you weren't necessarily referred to whoever the advisor is and whatever the arena is to ask them for, who can I talk to about their experience with you that looks like me? And I don't mean, I mean, kind of the whole background piece of it, like you were talking about. Because I think that's always something that's important, because it could have been your next door neighbor that referred you to come to me, but their situation is going to be totally different than yours, and you don't exactly look like your next door neighbor. Theirs is different. So I always think that's something important, to be able to talk to somebody who's kind of been through the same steps you have. It's always to me, it's always beneficial.
Couldn't agree more.
Mario, we've covered a bunch, here in a short period of time. What have I not asked you you wish I had?
Shoot. I think you do a great job of getting the meat out in a short period of time. I think a lot of the questions I've gotten a lot, which we already kind of went over, was, what was was it a really hard decision, or what was the hardest thing about going out on your own? And like I said, the hardest thing was just psychologically making that decision. And then once you're on that path, then you're all in. But if you're wavering between two, if you're not all in, if you're wavering, it will never work, right? If you're gonna hang your shingle and go the entrepreneurial path, you have to be 100% in and go all in. So I'll reinforce that one.
Yeah, I think, and on the show, I constantly preach about, building your team, making sure you have a team, make sure that your team of advisors, you allow them to talk and allow them to really help you, because, again, you're trying to build your plan, and you need to have this team of people to help you make sure that you're successful in the plan. So, that's one of those things where it's like, don't be afraid to reach out for help. And I know many of us as entrepreneurs and I'm going to say there's type A people don't like asking for help. But we really need to, get out of our own way sometimes and ask for help, for sure.
Yeah, no, I love that. I absolutely believe in taking a team approach, and I think that's a lot of the business owners, entrepreneurs, when they find their way to me. A lot of that is typically the biggest problem is they haven't assembled the team yet, and they're just overwhelmed with managing both the personal finances and the business finances. And once you can start to shed some stuff from their shoulders and put the right team members in place, it can make a world of difference.
Right. So Mario, people like what they hear today, and they want to reach out to you, talk to you. How can they reach you?
Yep. Email is mario@preserveprivatewealth.com. LinkedIn, I'm fairly active on LinkedIn, Mario Zumbo. Website, preserveprivatewealth.com. Not all over the rest of the social yet. No Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or X, but website and LinkedIn are best way to find more about me.
Oh, great. Really appreciate your time today, and I liked our discussion today.
Thanks, Gary. Appreciate it.
Sure. Hey, this week my guest was Mario Zumbo, and he is the founder and CEO of Preserve Private Wealth, and I will see you guys next week.
49 faces looked to him in triumph. Over the last 12 months, they had each taken turns and promoted his business for a week at a time, driving over $987,342 in revenue. What if you had a network of 50 centers of influence who promoted your business every week for a year? Grab your copy of the #1 Amazon best-selling book, The Ultimate Guide to Growing Your Business with a Podcast. at 33% off the Amazon price by going to ultimatepodcastbook.com. Again, that website for 33% off the Amazon price is ultimatepodcastbook.com.